Hello YouTubers, welcome back to another Tesla electric car video with me, Adam Well-Informed. Why the heck is there a 2018 100D Tesla Model S in the middle of my road? Well, that was my loaner car for the past 4 days, and my gosh, she was a real stunner. Bit rough around the edges, like the alloys have had a good rub in its prior life, but she was a real beauty to drive. More about that later. So today I want to talk to you about my Tesla service experience. It's freshly baked, folks. I literally got my car back today. I attended a relatively new service centre in Nottingham, which is probably more like 6 months old now, but previously I'd always gone to Birmingham as my nearest service centre. But thankfully the Nottingham location is much closer to me, so it seemed like a no-brainer to try it out. I want to lay down my whole experience from the service request to the finished job, an owner's perspective of what to do when you need a service for your Tesla Model 3, but what to expect, what happened during the service, what improvements could be made, plus my golden tips to save time, stress, and potentially a few quid, dollars, euros, etc. Top it off, I collected my car during the UK's worst storm for decades. Therefore, you can watch me avoid some scary HGVs and then avoid some pure idiocracy, whatever you want to call it, during this drive home. Therefore, could this video be any more informative? You know, and you will be the judge of that. Let me know in the comment section below. If you're wondering why I needed a service, it started a few months back, and I know some eagle-eyed viewers had actually spotted this in some of my video clips. I had an intermittent issue with the boot. The boot did work initially, but I needed to give it a couple of inches head start for the electronic tailgate to actually work. When my car got hit twice in 3 weeks, and whilst I was driving that Polestar 2, my Tesla Model 3 was at the repair shop, and during the repair process the boot wasn't used for a period of time, and I think the lack of usage accelerated the failure of the motorised strut of the electronic boot. I suspect it was actually failing slowly, but the lack of usage just accelerated that failure. So when the Model 3 was returned to me, the bodywork damage was fixed. However, I had this failure to attend to, which is partly my fault as I needed Tesla to look at it, but you know, whilst it was still technically working at the time, typical me, I just didn't really have the incentive to take it to Birmingham or Nottingham for them to look over it. Once it was totally kaput, I had no choice but to flag it and get the Tesla team to work its magic. That leads me to the process of how to book a Tesla service appointment. Don't forget you can skip chapters though within the video should you wish. However, this service didn't plan out as conventionally as I thought, and you could miss a couple of golden tips along the way. I feel like Gene Wilder from Willy Wonka right now. Not so much Johnny Depp. The original was way better than the remake. Is that controversial to say? Anyway, at some point you'll need Tesla service, whether that's for warranty work or not. Tesla will fix your car related problem in one of two ways. First, the traditional method of dropping it off at a service centre, or the second way, a Tesla mobile technician will fix your issue on your doorstep, whether you're at home or at work on a given day. But before you get to that stage, you must book the service request via your Tesla smartphone app. You simply detail the issue or issues that you are facing by documenting it in your own words, and then you send some cheeky snaps of the issue. Here's what I sent to Tesla in my ticket. Oops, that's not quite right. That's the wrong photo collection. Here you can see the image that just brings the severity of my issue to life. During this ticket progress, you nominate a physical appointment date and a time at a service centre location. But wait, how do you get that mobile appointment? Well, Tesla will review ticket data and run remote diagnostics before deciding whether to go ahead with a physical appointment or replace the appointment with a mobile visit instead. My first gold tip for you is if you want a loaner car, you absolutely must state this in the initial ticket write-up, but you must be prepared to wait longer for your appointment in the process, as loaner cars are not widely available. In my case, from my ticket request, I had a nominated appointment within 24 hours of my request, but the physical appointment had to be pushed back around a month or so to get hold of that loaner car that I needed, as we are a one-car household. I had booked the appointment just after the final sales/delivery rush and the Christmas holiday, so I expect it would have been a bit of a busier time to book a service, but I literally had no choice but to book it. I knew that was the case prior to the appointment, and I know that detailing a loaner car within the ticket prevents you from getting stressed on the day, as they need to book that loaner car in advance. However, what I personally like about this service journey, and some of you will disagree I'm sure, is that you are also exposed to quotations ahead of time, so you can get an idea of the potential costs involved. Now, I was fairly confident this was going to be a warranty job anyway. the motorised strut failed on its own right in front of me. So whilst the quotation is there and requires approval, you have to remember this is just a quotation. It's not a definitive approval of cost. Therefore, the cost can throw you back initially, especially if you think it's going to be a free warranty job. But this is merely an estimate until the official work takes place, for which the technician can update the invoice to include more or less items, or even zero off the invoice to confirm that this is a warranty replacement. Golden tip number 2. To secure the loaner, you need to send a copy of your driving license in advance. You can do this via a ticket request itself, or in my case, I emailed it to them directly as requested. They do this to prevent the faffing within the service centre, then they make you sign an electronic agreement to secure the loaner. Pretty standard stuff really. However, it's all electronic for a solid reason, and this differed from my previous experience at Birmingham, and you're about to see that genius reason why and how it all played out. POV, it's Tuesday. I've had a few texts and emails from Tesla reminding me of my appointment, and that appointment was touchless. But a day before, I received a non-Tesla branded email for a service called keycafe, which is essentially a humanless drop-off experience. In a nutshell, I can drive my car to the service centre and simply drive off in the loaner. I don't actually need to hand over any of my Tesla keycards, etc. I just get the loaner car keys and go. A smooth transition, right? Well, there was a hiccup along the way, but before I get to my first road bump in the process, I should probably mention a week or so before my appointment, I texted Tesla to tell them that my side repeater camera had mysteriously failed. At first, we both thought it was software related, but a later software update debunked that theory. So they added this issue to my upcoming appointment for a potential replacement, even though it was a late request. Back to the service visit. So I arrived at Tesla Nottingham right on time, and my keycafe instructions specifically instructed me to locate the keycafe box. Now, at this point, I had no idea what I was looking for. A picture would have been nice, but it kindly provided me with a map, which was essentially useless, as it just told me it was at the service centre. Like, who would have guessed that? Anyway, a little stressed right now, I decided to ask a gentleman in a black coat looking at another parked up Tesla. And I just asked the guy, like, where's this keycafe box? And, obviously I asked that kindly, of course. And he tells me he has no idea, and he actually doesn't work for Tesla. So at this point, I'm like, yikes, I'm pretty embarrassed, slightly stressed. And so I decided to head into the service part of the centre, which wasn't part of the plan. But before I actually get to the door of that sales part of the service centre, I actually locate the keycafe box that I needed, and that location sort of makes sense to me. Therefore, I think the instructions from keycafe just needed that extra step just to make it clearer of what I was looking for, and B, the box is actually just located next to the entrance of the sales centre. Anyway, I punched in the unique code from my instructions and out popped the Model S key and a key fob. All I needed to do now is just jump into the Model S and Tesla would take it from here. So I begin the transition of moving the car seats from the Tesla Model 3, but the spaces are relatively small here, so I need to move the Model S to somewhere with a little bit more extra room for me to open the doors fully. But before I could drive the S, I needed a pin to drive. This was not mentioned on the keycafe instructions, and if it was, it needs to be clearer because I just overlooked that step. I then had no choice but to contact a Tesla sales rep in the sales part of the office. He was actually happy to help, grab me a pin in about a minute, and then I proceeded to move the car and the car seats, etc., and just set off home. But before the diagnosis of my car and how the dialogue with the service technician played out, I like to be transparent, as many of you know. How can we not briefly discuss this loaner experience first? It looks smart on the outside, but I have two WTF moments. The first WTF moment is, who actually enjoys eating Walker's Quavers? In my expert professional opinion of being a human, the cheesiness seems to violate the actual taste of cheese, and the crisp is formed into like a long toenail shaped format. I'm sorry, Walkers, I'm not a fan. But to make my off-topic rant relevant, there was an empty packet left in the loaner car. I'm not saying the car needs to be fully valeted, but it would have been nice if it was cleared of all rubbish before we actually got in the car. I mean, it looks pretty clean apart from the fact that the beige carpet interior was a footprint magnet. And whilst the beige carpet is aesthetically pleasing, it's far from practical for a young family. But then again, this is just a loaner car. These are usually pre-loved or previously rejected cars of some kind. Therefore, it's important to manage your own expectation for a loaner car. It's not going to be perfect, but at least I think it's fair to say I don't want someone else's rubbish inside. It's not a massive issue, just a minor thing, but I'm sure we will agree on that. Otherwise, the car was an absolute pleasure to drive. My wife even agreed with me, and she even thought the visibility was great considering that, she's quite small, she's just over 5 foot. I particularly loved the comfort of the vehicle, but primarily the suspension was to die for, especially with the bumps, or should I say lack of bumps. It just really breezed over them with ease. It really felt and drove like a luxury car because of these traits. Specs wise, it had a 100 kilowatt hour battery pack, almost double the capacity of my Model 3, yet its rated range was just over 300 miles and it does 0 to 60 around 4.3 seconds. The interior was extremely spacious, especially for the kids in the back. I did have troubles getting my daughter's car seat belt in, and that was because it needed to be clicked in at a certain angle, and that wasn't forgiving with her car seat design. My son's though was absolutely fine, so it wasn't a real biggie. The funniest issue that I actually came across was the bloody wipers. Some of you legacy Model S owners will probably have a laugh at me right now. I was trying to get the wiper slider on the screen like my Model 3, but it actually has a physical stalk dedicated for the wipers. Now, this is probably a niche issue for most people that will buy or drive a Model S, as they will come from an ICE vehicle and not from a Tesla Model 3 or a Tesla Model Y. Elon famously says the best input is no input. Going from a 3 or a Y, I miss having the auto wipers preset or even the ability for the voice command to activate them. Like I said, a niche issue, but it would have been good if Tesla could put together a quick reference guide for a review to test drive a Model S or X, in particular how to adapt to the cockpit's most used features and how it differentiates from the 3 and the Y. It will just help with that transition a little when driving a new car. Overall, the legacy Model S is a fine car, still packed with awesome features from 2018. Take the heated wiper blade that's only just making it to the 3 and Y this quarter as a brand new feature. I personally just missed out on the heated steering wheel function on my Tesla Model 3 refresh, so that function will be missed indeed. It was just really fun to drive and the interior was very spacious. Yeah, I enjoyed my time with it. I just managed to work out how to actually activate the wiper blades and then I had to give it back. So, PS, can one of you Model S owners tell me what this stalk is? Or, to be honest, I think it's more like a knob due to its small and wide appearance.
Hold up, wait a minute, something ain't right.
What does this actually do? Like, the amount of stalks and knobs here was pretty overwhelming for me. I think there were 3 on the left side and maybe 1 or 2 on the other side, and I'm used to just 2, but like I said, this is a niche issue and that quick reference guide wouldn't hurt at all. So before I go ahead and discuss the diagnostics and ongoing dialogue with the service technician, please don't forget to like, subscribe, hit the notification bell if you like Tesla content like this. If you want access to eCompCalc's closed beta, don't forget to follow the socials in the description below and DM me your email address for us to forward your exclusive invitation. Please note we're just after UK beta testers at this time as we're making alterations for US and European users, so let's get back to finishing this juicy video. Throughout Wednesday, the Tesla service technician, Cash was his name, he kept me fully informed with all the work taken. This included what was next in the repair timeline and any revisions to the collection arrangements. I fully appreciated the ongoing commentary. It was really refreshing but also engaging. I don't recall that level of integration for my old petrol car. It was just a complimentary call saying we need to replace X, Y and Z and this will cost this. Whereas Cash, he immediately identified that I actually needed a new rear light due to water ingress. Those that watched my 12-month review video will know that I actually knew about this issue, but I just hadn't got around to flagging it. But Cash and Tesla immediately raised this with me. In fact, it was the very first thing that they did. Immediately they got a mobile appointment booked in there and then because they didn't have the part on site. They could have turned a blind eye to it, but they didn't. They just said, oh, you need a new light as well. Here's a mobile appointment. We want to go ahead and fix that for you. So hats off for Tesla for the honesty and my laziness for not raising the issue with them sooner. Otherwise, he continued to fix my boot and the mystery intern broke my hinge. Not sure if that was true or if the intern was just the scapegoat for this difficult job, but either way, it was totally busted and whatever was going to happen because it just needed to be fixed. So the next thing that they did was replace the side repeater camera and finally topped it off with a courtesy inspection of the car free of charge. I can't argue with their proactive nature. I think we've all heard some of the horror stories, but the technician was really reassuring and just generally happy to help. He even reassured me this was definitely warranty work during the whole process. It was a real positive experience for sure. To round up this section, I wasn't actually restricted to picking the car up within the normal servicing hours of 9 to 5 because this was a keyless experience. Therefore, being almost an hour away from the branch, I had 24 hours flexibility to pick the car up. So that keycafe humanless experience was super convenient for those with busy lifestyles and really accommodating. Previously in my visit to Birmingham, when we didn't have this experience, My car was ready for collection at 4 o'clock, but by the time I would have left to pick the car up when I was notified, I wouldn't have made it in time for the service hours. So having that flexibility of, being able to pick your car up when you want was, you can't argue with that, can you really? After I looked over the car and grabbed a complimentary Coke from the sales centre for the drive home, I had to battle through some real tough weather conditions. I mean, look at this HGV driver. They really did struggle to keep it within their lane. Poor driver must have hated driving in them conditions. After I saw their first weave, I flatline refused to overtake them until it turned into a 3-lane format. I'm glad I held off because this actually happened a couple of times within a few minutes right in front of my eyes. It was just absolute madness. Then there were just some real, I'm trying to think of a PG way to explain just how poor some of these drivers were in these conditions. And I'm sure you can find some naughty or colourful language to explain the pain of what I went through. I mean, why has this guy just jumped 2 lanes, it's pouring down with rain, he's left me little space, and then he's just brake tested me? To me, that's just reckless. It's ridiculously gusty out there, it's raining, and you're not even left me enough space, man. It's just, it literally just drove me up the wall. Thankfully, it wasn't just me being on the back end of some poor driving. This poor van in front of me almost got driven into not once but twice in as little as a minute. I mean, there was just some absolute idiots on the road today. I just don't understand how it was that bad, but there we go. So to conclude, we've all heard or seen some of the horror stories online during our research into Tesla. Therefore, for me, cue the drum roll on my opinion. That was a pretty jaw drum roll. This was probably the closest experience I've had to a perfect service appointment. Now, I don't think there is such thing as a perfect service appointment, just to put that out there. At face value, it's because something is broken and it needs fixing. But if there was a perfect appointment, this was probably up there. It would have been more so if instructions on keycafe were just a little bit more refined and the loaner car rubbish was cleared. But to me, they were minor issues. The boot and the side repeater camera are working just fine, and even during the gusts of wind, the boot was holding its own. So, it's working just as it should have been. Hats off to Cash, the Tesla team back in Nottingham. They did an awesome job of keeping me informed and arranging for the mobile visit for the rear light issue. That was something I hadn't raised with them directly at all. So thank you for your honesty and fixing all my issues in a timely and convenient manner. Therefore, if you want a service appointment and you're in the East Midlands, don't hesitate to use the Nottingham branch. It has my personal seal of approval should I ever require assistance again. That's it from me this week, folks. Don't forget to subscribe, like the video, share it with your friends and family. Don't forget to follow my socials in the description below. You've been great. Hope you've enjoyed the video. And guess what? I'll see you in the next one. Ciao.